You're listening to Life, the Universe, and Everything Else. Today on the show, I don't understand.
Life, the Universe, and Everything Else explores the intersection of science and society. Our music is produced by Ian James, and the show is edited by E.A. Moon.
My name is Lauren Bailey, and with me today I have Ashlyn Noble.
Hello.
Laura Creek Newman.
Hi there.
And Jem Newman.
Hello.
We have brought Eeyore in for this recording. We're going to do something a little bit differently today. Instead of each of us going away and researching part of a topic and coming back and informing the others, we're just going to ask some questions. And not in the I'm just asking questions kind of way. In the this really doesn't make sense to me on a fundamental level, no matter how much I look at it kind of way. The little things. I'm going to start us off with basically capitalism.
Whew, nice easy one for us.
I don't understand greed. I don't understand people being able to look at facts, people who have been taught how to look at these facts, have been elected to look at facts, and them going, no, the problem is not that we don't give enough money to social solutions, it's that people have to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, that kind of thing. I don't understand what is the sort of greedy mentality that just sort of makes this happen. Like, how can people look at another person and go, it's that person's fault that they're poor, or that person's fault that their society doesn't support them? How? Can anyone elucidate me?
I think there's a lot of things that go into that. One is it would be nice if the world were just. And if we are struggling, it's nice to think that if we do the right things, it'll work out okay. That's a comforting thought. And if we're not struggling, it's nice to think, oh, well, I'm succeeding. Therefore, I did the right stuff and everything worked out for me. And I don't have to feel guilty about the people who are struggling because they just made the wrong choices.
But why don't they? Like, I'm doing very well. Like, we are doing very well in our family. Not as well as others, but we are comfortable. Mm-hmm. And we try to help people as long as it's not to like a detriment that makes us starving or whatever. We're not being so altruistic that we are giving of ourselves without
taking care of your own basic needs and so on. And
but like Ashlyn runs the What's for Dinner, and we all try to help out and take care. I just don't understand why that is not the mentality that is more prevalent. Like, why don't people say, hey, yeah, I could help these people in this way?
We could always do more, and we could always do less. There's that famous thought experiment about the drowning child in the pond, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you could save a drowning child that was in a pond in front of you, but it might cost you your shoes or whatever, yeah, of course you would do that, but the cost of those shoes would probably save a child in somewhere that doesn't have enough to eat right now. So we could spend every penny that we don't actually need on helping other people, but there's always a limit that is somewhat before that.
And if you look hard enough, there are drowning children everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. And taking it out of the personal realm, though, I understand that the answers are Reagan and everything that led up to Reagan. I'm not coming at this from a naive perspective. Right. I'm assuming our listeners understand that I've done my political history homework. But there was a time in, even in the United States, where they called it corporate communism. where companies would fight to take better care of their employees, and governments had programs to work for people. And again, going back to the answer is neoliberalism, but why, maybe I'm not phrasing this right in my own head. How has the government structure changed from let's take care of the people that elect us to I'm either going to become a career politician and make every single dime that I can and squeeze it out of my constituents, or I'm just not going to fight for anybody and just how has this become a sort of a money funneling career as opposed to a public service?
Well, I think by virtue of it becoming a career, because it wasn't a career for a long time, right? It was it was like being on a board of directors or whatever.
It was an appointment, and it was a hereditary appointment in a lot of cases, right?
But if you look in the United States and even your early Canada, it was people would have jobs. And if you look at state senators in the United States, if you look at provincial and municipal politicians here in Canada, they have other jobs because you can't make a living doing that.
But it went from all of those people being like farmers and random business folks to all of them being people who had become lawyers so that they could become politicians.
Right.
Yeah. And I know it comes from the House of Lords and stuff. Like if we're looking from the English model, there was the aristocracy who had these seats that were handed down to them, and that's how they were enriched and blah, blah, blah.
And that was to some extent considered like a duty or a privilege.
Yeah.
The burden that you had as the aristocracy. Speaking sarcastically, of course. But now, I think if you look at it from a systems perspective, and you look at what incentives are in play, you see there are plenty of incentives to push people toward the outcome that we have, right?
Yeah.
You will benefit personally from courting major donors. You will benefit personally from paying more attention to what your donors want because they help you get elected than to what the actual what will be good for the constituents. And as people spend more time actually fundraising than they do governing,
sitting in their office and listening to the people, holding court, if you will.
Right. Like the outcome that we have is fairly predictable, I think. Although hindsight being 2020.
Yeah. And we do have people who are trying to swing it back in the other direction. Like it'll scare Ashlyn to hear this. I'm always thinking about running for local office. They know it's just, hopefully will never come to fruition. But I mean, I would see it as a calling to take care of people. And that would probably eat me alive. I know myself.
You could do some real good for one term.
Yeah. But if we want to make it of the people, I understand that there is I don't want to say low voter information, but why do people keep electing these same people who do nothing for them? I know there's the United States, we talk about it as the country of 8 million or 80, however many million people there are, embarrassed millionaires who are just a year away from striking it rich. But why do they keep voting and electing the same people? And even here, I'm looking at Polyev running across the country to get another seat.
Literally the safest riding.
Why are we electing the people who are so opposed to the people that they are supposed to be taking care of, being there, taking care of them? Why are they signing up to be the quote-unquote parent for all these people and then abandoning them?
Well,
and why do we keep letting them?
Yeah.
The small questions.
The small questions. That's a really tough one. Inertia and doing whatever you've always done is a really strong human trait. Mm-hmm. And as we were talking about a moment ago, that divide between who was actually running for office and representing the people and engaging with them. Now, there is often that degree or multiple degrees or graduate degrees or these types of things that separate an average person from even feeling like they can do that, I think. Like, we have examples of many politicians who aren't lawyers, who are capable politicians and who can understand and who can do the job. And I wonder if there's also a general feeling that unless you are of that background or that understanding the laws or whatever else, I can't even begin to think about running because I'm not qualified. Like, there's, as you add more and more of those people of like that coming from a certain background or a certain stature or something, it inadvertently sends a message to people, or people internalize a message that perhaps they're not capable. And so that then reinforces, well, they must be the smarter ones or something. I think my guess is that there's a bit of that goes on as well. I also think, Lauren, that like the people who are outright voting for Poilievre, or like the ridings that never ever turn red or orange or any other color, they think they're being represented pretty well. The vast majority, they do. They do. They do. And that's not going to change per se. So I think that's something that like from, and some of us, our writing doesn't change very often, but your writing has a couple of times into what color is being represented. And so I think there's a bit more of a mix, but I think there's part of that is that some people really do think that they are being represented because, back to your initial point, the idea of the bootstrapping, taking care of themselves, working really hard, and that's what makes you money, and that's this, and this is part of that.
So my final part of my question. Sorry, Ashlyn, did you have a more?
I think that the folks who are voting for the Conservatives are the folks who see everything as a pie, and they need to get their piece of it before anybody who belongs less than they do can get their piece of it.
And we're going to get into this more in my segment, but I think that they sometimes will also prioritize punishing out groups over rewarding their own in-group, unfortunately, which does have some... which is common among non-human primates. Unfortunately, there's some research about that is pretty grim.
Your initial question also made me think of the duality that I see with this whole capitalism idea, that there is a simultaneous belief that there is a single pie and there are only so many pieces of it. And if you work hard enough, you get pie. And if you don't work hard, that was your fault that you didn't get pie. But also that anybody who works hard will get pie. That doesn't make sense. No. The belief system isn't that there is infinite pie, but the wording and the belief is also that anybody can get pie. This doesn't make sense to me.
Have you ever had any pie?
I think people who defend the capitalist status quo will also make a pair of arguments that are ill-founded. They'll grab at either capitalism has created this surplus that we enjoy in the rich West, the global North, however you want to phrase it, when in fact that is not capitalism. That is extractivism and settler colonialism and a variety of other things that have contributed to that surplus that we see, the wealth that we have. And they will also frame capitalism as though capitalism is the same as commerce, which it isn't. Commerce has existed for millennia, using tokens to represent value or debt and exchanging, rather than exchanging a chicken for a massage or whatever.
I reread The Wealth of Nations this week to try and get better at this.
Right. But I think a lot of people just don't think of it that way. These are complex topics that are relatively confused in a lot of people's minds. And that's fine.
Yeah. So that brings me to my final I don't understand. How do we, for tiny podcasters, for normal-sized human podcasters with a tiny podcast based out of Winnipeg, Manitoba, and I know normal is a setting on a washing machine, how do we help change hearts and minds? And like-minded people like us. I mean, we're preaching to the choir through our microphones monthly. There's others who do the same. I know that the quote-unquote capitalism and neoliberalism, they are a united front. And we are fractious. How do we get together? How do we get more people on our side and let them realize that, life can be better? The little questions.
I mean, maybe it's overly simplistic or just overly easy, but one way I feel we can do it is just modeling kindness and approaching things differently and being forthright about our beliefs. And when people ask us questions, answering honestly and providing our perspective in a way that isn't scary, in a way that doesn't necessarily use jargon, but that might surprise people hearing that other perspective.
Yeah, I like that. Just keep giving away food, giving away kindness.
Yeah.
Figuring out what people need and getting it to them.
Yeah, helping people.
Organizing, doing things in person together that build community.
Yeah. I think I love all of that. I've been thinking a lot about empathy after watching a great video that Jem linked me to, which he'll put in the show notes, that putting ourselves in other people's shoes, and to come back to the pie analogy, remembering for ourselves and practicing that, like, there is actually a lot of pie out there, and what we think is what we ought to have as an amount of pie is actually plenty to go around, and we don't actually suffer as much as we think. Again, with that out group, like, oh, they'll take some of my pie, and that was the worst thing. Meanwhile, you're sitting on a mountain of pie. Yeah. Right? And is that true for everybody in our society? No, there's many people who need a lot more, but there's many people that, if we stretch ourselves a little bit and encouraging each other to stretch ourselves a little bit, and then just recognizing, you know what, that actually didn't hurt me.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it too, because the fear of not having enough pie, right? Capitalism and all of this has told us that the best thing in the world you can do is have as much pie as you can. And I'm all for pie, don't get me wrong.
Hot damn, that pie's good.
And also at a certain point, that pie might not be good anymore if you're not going to use all that pie. And remembering that if you let go of a little bit, you're going to be okay. I think there's a lot of people who could do some of that. And so kind of showing some of that and pushing back a little when people push hard on the other side to the right kind of person.
But is a pie a sandwich?
No.
It's a pierogi.
It is not a dumpling. A pie is not a dumpling.
Excuse me, what about the hand pie? A hand pie is definitely a dumpling.
That's a pasty.
Only if you deep fry it, though.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Anyway.
All over the world, we're connected by something inside a dough, whether it is baked or fried or boiled. Jem, what else do we have all over the world?
We have people all over the world.
Shocker.
And what I don't understand is why people view themselves and those close to them as fundamentally more important than folks anywhere else or from anywhere else. I mean, at the risk of immediately undermining the point of this whole enterprise, I kind of do understand, I think.
We understand these on fundamental levels, but it's good to talk them out together.
Yeah.
And
like, presumably, it's evolutionarily advantageous for us to prioritize our own personal survival. Kind of what Lauren was talking about with the politicians, I think that there are systems at play rather than individual choices. There are things that evolve because they tend to be more successful and self-perpetuate, whether it's DNA or the types of crooked politicians that prioritize their donors over their constituents. It is probably advantageous for an organism to prioritize its own survival over the survival of its neighbor, and to prioritize the survival of its neighbor, who is more likely to have more of its genes in common than the survival of somebody from across the river or across the world. I know that there is an evolutionary component to this, or I imagine.
That's what I was just going to bring up. We're hard coded.
I was going to say, like,
But we're all thinking people, and we should be able to move past this and to see that fundamentally we're all equally deserving.
We just want the Star Trek, the world Star Trek proposed for us.
Fully automated luxury communism.
Yeah.
Right. I think that a lot of people see the way others behave, and they see people prioritizing their own kids over their neighbors' kids, over kids from a different place. They see that that's the way it is, and they see that behavior modeled, and so that's the way they behave. And we've got kids. You love your kids, and you feel when your kid bumps their knee, you probably feel for your kid more than for somebody else's kid who bumps their knee, maybe. But we shouldn't assume that just because something is natural or something is the way it is, that that's the way it should be, that that's right. Any elementary philosophy class, as any elementary philosophy class will tell you, there's a vital distinction between is and ought. I think there, in addition to the evolutionary component, here, it's coming, as I think we were sort of pointing to, again, in Lauren's segment, it's coming from a place of fear as well. If you prioritize yourself, if you're greedy, if you prioritize your family, then you know you've got a safety net. Our resources are finite, and our society is highly atomized. And we see people prioritizing themselves, and we fear that if we give away what we have, we won't have enough, or there may come a time when we don't have enough. And so we lie on our beds of gold like Smaug without sharing.
This is some sordid scheme.
And I think a lot, I think that those two things, the fear of not having enough, so wanting to keep all the gold close to home, and the evolutionary component, there's just this instinctual, we want to protect the people who are closest to us. I think that those really account for the vast majority of why this happens, why we prioritize our own communities over prioritizing, say, immigrants, why we prioritize people who look like us, whether that means white, whether that means straight, whether that means men, whether speaking about myself, versus people who look less like us, who are less like us. I think that explains the vast majority of it, and I think that the arguments that people make, because these are not the arguments that people make to defend this.
No.
I think that the arguments are total nonsense. I think that the actual arguments that people use to defend this behavior, this very conservative ideology, are simply post hoc rationalizations, like the arguments marshaled in defense of almost any political position. The explanation will be framed as self-evident, something that we feel, it's common sense, but it's just a plausible sounding rationalization to justify what we already feel is right, rather than working out what is right from first principles based on our values.
I agree with that. I think that is a skill that isn't always taught in that way, and it's something that does have to be taught and modeled to not just go with the instinct. I do think that there's a lot of instinct, and it is, I think sometimes we love to think of ourselves as incredibly rational, which we can be, but it also takes time to get there, and it's not something that once we're there, we're always that way. Our instinctual brain does a lot for us. And so I am not defending it. I'm just saying that it's a constant practice and process as well. And we all need to remember that.
And you can,
Go ahead.
You can retrain your instinctual brain, right? Like you can retrain those reflexes.
You
to a certain
can.
extent.
And I would also argue that if you are then stressed, it's going to be harder to stay with that new training. You're going to go back to a more base level of something.
We have to also take a look at what people are looking at as the word rational. Because for you and I and most of the folks who probably listens to this show, rational might mean taking care of people, might mean understanding that that family over there is the same as your family, even though they don't look the same. But the word rational can mean to other people, it's only rational to take care of people who look like me or people who are related to me.
Or people who are just right here instead of in a different continent.
Like we've heard the term like the chimpanzee sphere or the monkey sphere, where you're only able to hold the needs and thoughts for like 100, like a group of like 100, like a band of people about that size with that many chimpanzees or whatever. I forget where I first read that was the, but
after that, like it's not fathomable after that.
Yeah. After that, there's just too much. It gets too deep.
Yeah. I agree. And that like, that has a lot to do with it. And so practicing those kinds of things. And I think that's where the images that were shown and how we are socialized, and that becomes really important with that it's not just, well, this is our group and we take care of our group. It's like, well, we do take care of who's with us, and anybody could be part of our group, right? My group's not that different. You might not be in my group, or your group over in that country is not the same as my group, but you have a group that's just like mine. Like that common humanity piece, I think is one of the bits that is missing. And I can't speak for other cultures, but I here in our North American, very privileged culture, we have not used that common humanity. It's always been an other, a terrifying other, usually an underprivileged other, an other that lives in a terrible place that has monsoons or something. Like they're always an other, and it's not that common humanity piece. Even when you, like we've talked about Save the Children and World Vision and all of that, the kids on there that are sponsored, or the families, they are others. They're not kids just like your kid. They are othered, right?
But they are just
like your 7-year-old at home, right? That kind of thing. They are that common humanity piece. Even if we can't, even if we do cognitively reach a limit to say that all 8 billion of us are my person, if we repeat it enough and sort of base our view of the world that is so huge as like, we are all the same, and anyone could be in this position, that might help. I don't know. Like that's what I think about that common humanity.
People
piece.
have been people since we've been people.
Yeah, man, you never know. People are very strange these days.
Yeah.
You can read like the diary of somebody from 4th century, what is now China, and they're having the same sort of thoughts and feelings that you're having on a day-to-day basis. But it's just...
And that is an amazing realization that can expand our sphere of empathy, not just to those who are distant to us in space, but also in time.
Yeah.
Isn't there that famous Darwin diary quote, like, I feel very poorly and I hate everything? Voyage on the Beagle.
Yeah, that is...
Or I'm not gonna think it was a couple years ago, there was something that made the rounds on social media. It was like a tablet that, or maybe this was at the British Museum or something. I don't remember. Recently, there were some tablets that were found that were basically like somebody has just airing their grievances about another person.
El Nasir and the copper.
Ian Nasir.
Yeah, I think
Ian
so.
Nasir, excuse me.
Yeah, just like, and that we still do that today. That jerk didn't pay me. And thousands of years passed, and yet we remain petty.
We'll throw a link in the show notes to those who have not heard of the complaint tablet to Nasir. Throw a link in the show notes. And just to circle back to what Lauren was referencing earlier, Lauren was referring to Dunbar's number, which is the idea proposed by anthropologist Robin Dunbar, that humans can really only feel a close kinship to about 150 people, give or take, which is a number extrapolated from social groups of other primates and based on human average brain size. And then
Listen to the fear of the infinite after that, because your 150 people are different than my 150 people.
Mm-hmm.
And then each one of those has a different 150 people. And just, we have to go through and look at our connections and go, yeah, I might be 2 people removed. You might be like my Dunbar plus 2 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you're still part of my world.
Right.
And I think we've actually been conditioned not to see that, both by like government and just sort of the general othering that we do in our day to day. We're taught not to see that because it is a scary number.
Mm-hmm.
Infinite is scary,
Yeah.
especially to people who don't want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
That's why when you have, like, there's a certain amount of money that you get where it becomes eventually, like, basically infinite, and it drives you it breaks your brain. When you become I don't know where the number is. I don't ever want to find it on my own, but you see people with billions of dollars and their brains are just broken.
Well, I mean,
Back to the greed and the
also,
people.
I would argue that their brains were a little broken before they had their billions.
So did we answer your question? Is why are people xenophobic?
Well, so I want to talk about this a little bit more because it comes up a lot in the context of healthcare. Like, that's where I see it a lot, but then also in context of the ongoing genocide in Palestine and the civil war in Sudan and all sorts of conflicts where people don't bring themselves to care about the suffering of others. And when we talk about healthcare in this country, often we talk about rationing healthcare and making sure that non-citizens have very limited access to healthcare in this country, whereas citizens have easier access to most healthcare.
Provided they have the paperwork.
Provided they have the paperwork, provided they have an address, etc. And the rationing is often used as an excuse, but you can continue asking why over and over. You know, well, if we need to ration, why are we saying these particular groups of people don't deserve health care rather than certain health care is less cost effective if we're doing rationing and giving everybody access to health care at a lower level rather than slicing the pie less thin, we're making bigger slices and giving it to fewer people, right?
Would you like some pie?
Massive quantities and a glass of water, sweetheart. My socks are on fire.
And then you start hearing these excuses come out, like there's this hierarchy of responsibility that people often bring out. It's very popular in religious circles where we have more of a responsibility to our direct family, and then we have responsibility to our friends and neighbors, and then we have responsibility to our wider community, and then we have responsibility to our nation, and then to the world, etc. But if you look outside of yourself and you try to look at things from a just perspective, you try to draw the veil of ignorance across your face and say, what would a just society look like if I don't know who I am going to be in that society? Then you realize that this thought experiment, this justification immediately fails because there are so many people who don't have a family to take care of them, who don't have neighbors because they've been displaced, etc., etc. And resources are not equally distributed. So if we care for our community here and the people in Syria care for their community there, then that's all well and good until you recognize the vast disparity of resources available to the communities here versus the communities there versus the communities elsewhere. And we are all subject to the accident of our birth, right? We are born in different bodies in different places with different abilities and access to different things. And we this is something that I wanted to mention in Lauren's segment as well, we get caught up in this zero-sum game where if I share my resources with you, then I have less. But fundamentally, if we work together, we're all better for it.
Mm-hmm.
If you hoard your gold, then you have gold. If you have gold, but you can't eat gold. You need somebody to grow the food and make the food and bring the food to you.
We live in a society, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but if you forge those connections, if you share, then people will share with you. And if that's not true, if you share and you've made somebody else's life easier and you don't get anything for it, that's okay too, because you made somebody else's life easier. And if you share so much that you have nothing left and nobody else shares back because we live in such a selfish world, well, I mean, I wouldn't want to live in that world anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if your fear of sharing is that no one will share with me, it's like, well, that
you learned the wrong lessons.
We all took the wrong lessons out of this. Like, no, then if we all do the exact opposite, what would happen? It might be the exact opposite situation of us all being afraid again of losing what we have and that. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, Jem. I was thinking, again, I do think that on an individual personal level, there is going to be a bit of a hierarchy. Like, I do have to take care of my own children before I take care of many other people in most cases, because that is my job as their caregiver. And especially in our really fractured, nuclearized, tiny families, that role becomes outsized. Like, evolutionarily, taking care of your family could easily mean 20, 30 people, and you didn't have to take care of all of them. You had a couple of roles in that, and we took care of each other in that way. And so just by taking care of your family, you were taking care of a good chunk of your group. And then if you extend it to your friends and your neighbors, now you're at like 100 people between all of you easily, right? So so I think there is that. But societally, if we think of, well, we have to take care of those who are close to us, I think we should be seeing anybody who's here is in our society. Mm-hmm. And we are taking that idea that, well, if once I take care of my own family, I just stop and I should decide who's in this society. But no, we don't. Again, like you said, Lauren, we don't get to decide that.
I don't want our listeners to think that we're advocating for some sort of like cult thing where all the children are raised together, because that has been given there has unfortunately been research into that. It's not great. Our structures are set up the way they are for a reason. And you can seriously, if you're going to abuse them, it's going to hurt a lot of people. See cults and raising all the kids.
Well, and like to that note too, like, I know this is a side note, Jem, but like that's also removing them from their families of origin, restricting access, not allowing them to have proper careful attachments. It's a control thing. It's like many cultures do have kids that are raised together with several people, but they still have their parents or whoever their primary caregivers are, and they have like. Anyway, but so it's how responsible for them. Everyone's responsible, or like these are the people who do most of the child minding, but they go home at night, or like anyway, there's healthy ways to do it that many cultures have done for as long as humans have been around, and then there's cults.
to use like languages of some sci-fi magic and stuff, we're additive. You're not subtracting the family model, you're just adding to the family model.
Right. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether I love my kids. I do not believe, on an intellectual level, that they are more deserving of life or happiness than any other kids. And that is an important thing for me to remember in a lot of the decision-making day to day, I think. I don't think that I am more deserving of happiness than anyone else at this table or anywhere else in the world. And that is a principle that sometimes I need to fight against. That is something that I recognize intellectually, but sometimes I don't. It's not the reflex that I have because it's not It's not the
Because it's
instinctual
hard.
response. It's hard.
It's hard. I'm not saying it's not.
But it doesn't matter that my kids are related to me biologically, right? Like, whether they're biologically my kids or not, they're equally deserving of happiness. And whether the other people who live around me are related to me or not, it doesn't matter. And this part of what keeps drawing me to this idea, like, part of this is grounded in my determinism. I don't believe that fundamentally I can't be blamed or applauded for any of the choices that I've made, because those are the choices that I made as a result of my antecedents that differed from yours and everyone else's. And even in a determinist world, there is no such thing as a just world, right? There is only the world. And we can only do what we can to make it the best world possible for everyone.
Laura?
Oh, is that the end?
Yeah.
Okay. I like that idea. We make it the best world that we can, right? We shouldn't just aim for perfection, especially if the only way that we can aim for perfection is only perfection for one person and worse off for everybody else, which is, again, kind of the billionaire's model, I guess.
Yep.
I don't know. So, you all know that I work with food or talk about food for a living. I don't get how anybody can see food choices, feeding themselves as a wholly individual act on any such level. Lauren, you were talking about this earlier, and Gem too. So I'm sorry, I mixed up who was talking about what.
We're all just sort of bleeding into each other.
Well, and also
here.
same brain over here. So, but there's that whole idea, like, okay, so someone's out there doing the surgery that's saving the life. Okay, cool. Who's growing the food that fed that person? Who's bringing that food to market? Who's like deciding what food comes to market and not? Who's developing the seeds or saving the seeds to do that? Who's running the markets, right? Who's regulating these things? Who's preparing etc. It's a very crude illustration of just like food has never been an individual endeavor. And
no.
Ashlyn, like, I feel like you would probably feel this and know this in a very intimate way. Like, people love to think about food as this thing that we all have control over, and that if we just do well enough, again, we'll be the healthiest or feel the best, or I don't know, whatever we've assigned will be the gold medal that we're going to win when we do that. And also that each person should be able to totally control that. It makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
Humans are humans because we have shared food and because we have shared food tasks. Not just that we all ate the thing that or a group of us. So when ancient hunters were hunting, they didn't hunt alone. They hunted in groups because it's real hard to drag a mammoth back by yourself or whatever.
It's real hard to drink a 26 of whiskey out in the woods and shoot turkeys all by yourself.
It's real hard. You know,
some people manage it.
I know.
People who were doing the foraging or the planting when that part came around, they didn't do it alone. They did it in groups because it's real hard to plant a whole field by yourself or to go through a whole forest and grab all the berries by yourself. Like, that's real hard stuff. And if each person only did it for themselves and no one else, everyone would be worse off. And humans figured that out really, really quickly.
And everyone would still be spending all of their time gathering and cooking.
We
their
never
food.
would have figured out agriculture the way that we have it, because that took groups of people to work together and to cross-pollinate and to domesticate and choose the seeds and like all of these things. They didn't just take time, and it wasn't just one guy who was really smart. It was groups and generations of people that did these things.
So
Ever
why
since
did we
we've
forget
had
it?
community, we've had people who were in charge of cooking for that community.
Yeah.
There's the idea of having, again, every single person make breakfast, lunch, and dinner for themselves is just unrealistic.
Right.
You're not failing because you come home from work and go, I'm too tired to cook. You're normal.
You're normal because we didn't evolve that way, because there was no way for the people who were out for 16 hours on a hunt to figure that out, right? Or for the people out in the fields who were working because it was harvest time. Like, they couldn't stop, come home, cook something from scratch that took several hours because olden days, and then go back out and do it. Like, that's impossible.
Yeah.
We just didn't. Even when we got to a point where, say, like, in many in bread eating cultures, fresh bread every day. I mean, there was no other way to do it for most of humanity's existence. Fresh bread every day became a staple, and that was important. Not everybody had an oven. There was a community oven. Somebody ran the bakery. You might make your own dough, but then you take it there and they run it, because they figured out really quickly that it was way more efficient to have a couple big ovens than everybody have their own little oven.
Yeah.
It's way faster. Like, all of these things so I think about this because I care, and because the longer I work with food, the more I'm just like, so little of this isn't within our control, and also we need to share to make this all work for all of us. And I also am very interested in a very perverse, unhealthy way in, like, the trad wife homestead kind of things. It's awful, but I can't look away. And so that idea of, you know, oh, you're going to bake all your bread yourself, and you're going to can everything yourself, and you're going to grow only everything for exactly your family. It's like, no one's ever done that. That's insane. Like, what world are you even modeling after? No one has ever lived that way.
Yeah.
Sure, there was a few really scrappy people who came from distant lands to the land that we were on and got sometimes good plots of land, sometimes terrible plots, and somehow they survived. Like, that is not the model. That was a whole lot of luck in cases, and also a whole lot of trauma that went along with not having that community and having to do it all yourself.
Rugged individualism is not a goal.
No.
As much as I have to, that's what I have to fight my brain against. That I have to do all of the things.
That don't make no sense.
And I have to be in charge of all of the things. And I'm in goddamn therapy. Well, everybody should be.
My thought, as soon as you said rugged individualism is not the goal, I was like, no, it's a trauma response.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm paying a lot of money to learn that about myself.
I look forward to having the time to go back to therapy, too.
You better. So that's really all I wanted to say. I just wanted to say it makes absolutely no sense. And it makes sense partly in that we have all become so divorced from where food comes from and how we get food, that it doesn't just magically appear in the grocery store overnight. Like, it doesn't like restock after you go to bed. But so that doesn't help anything.
No.
But just so many of these ideas make absolutely no sense to me if you look beyond well, you can choose. Actually, I can't.
You need a literal Greek goddess to come and do all your gardening for you. Hi, Athena.
I was thinking Demeter, but...
Well, no, but we have somebody who's helping us garden is named Athena.
They happen to be... okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yes, I'm well aware.
We're both
Demeter
right,
would have been
I guess.
funnier. But we've got Athena, and she's amazing. Yeah, all of this is coming down to capitalism doesn't make sense when you think about it.
I would say yes, and I would go further and say one of the common themes of these things is that stark individualism doesn't work, because stark individualism is what feeds capitalism. It's what feeds the othering and the limiting of resource sharing. It's what feeds a lot of this, right? And I think there's, again, this is one of those things that I'm thinking more and more, like, we have to realize how much our brains are actually wired to work together.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that there's safety in numbers.
There's safety in numbers.
Ashlyn?
So when presented with the topic, things you don't understand, I was taking this too literally, and I was having a hard time. My first instinct, honestly, was whatever Jem did before medicine. Don't understand that at all.
Do you want me to explain like number base theory to you?
But I also had to pick a topic that Jem wouldn't then just spend the next 20 minutes explaining to me.
It is okay, Ashlyn, to look at him dead in the eye and say, do not give me the answer, just listen.
You're not being a good neighbor right now.
But so I settled on something much more fundamental to the whole problem that I have with whatever Jem did before, is that I simply have a really big problem with numbers, and I always have. And I figured it out after high school because, of course, I got too good of grades for anybody to ever evaluate me for anything interesting.
Woo!
But so apparently when kids are like 5 or 6, they are supposed to be, it is age appropriate for them to be able to roll 2 dice and glance at them and know what the numbers are. That is not a skill I have developed yet. I cannot roll 2 dice and look at them and like have those numbers just appear in my brain. Like it takes me a minute to concentrate on them and add them up, which is why Dave adds up most of my dice for me when we play board games. Big green flag.
Yeah, there you go.
Where were you born? Inside an oven? Because you're a sweetie pie.
Get honey roasted, brother!
I have never been able to quickly and accurately determine left from right. Like when driving around the city or whatever, if somebody tells me, oh, you know, it's just a left up here, I think about it and I make letters with my fingers, and that's how I determine which direction we're going.
Thank goodness for that, eh?
Deity help me if I say go south.
Yeah.
You are very lucky that you're English speaking, because in Portuguese or in French, it's like droite and gauche.
Yeah.
There's no G or D. So.
Exactly.
It's a good
I'm sure
thing.
they have other mnemonics somehow.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I was more so like, oh, there's an actual L on my hand.
Yeah, that's
perfect.
Very helpful. Yeah. We learned in a dropout segment that another person who uses, there's me turns and you turns. So
because you're
I'm
the driver.
in the driver's seat and you're in the passenger seat.
Do I turn
yeah.
to you
actually,
or to me? Okay.
When I was taking driving lessons, one of the things that I used to keep going through my brain at all times was the driving instructor is always right.
And that's a mnemonic that we used to do when we would do like medieval country dance. What was it? He drives, she's always right.
Yeah. That makes sense. Other things that I struggle with are reading an analog clock. It'll take me a minute to figure out what the time is. If like I can do it, but it takes me a lot longer than a neurotypical brain in this regard does. So this is called dyscalculia. It's not exactly related to dyslexia, but they are often talked about in the same sorts of sentences because it's different skills that are being affected in different ways, but you can see how they're analogous.
Right.
About 3 to 6% of people apparently have dyscalculia. It was first described in like the 1950s, but not totally recognized until the 1970s. I, again, didn't find out about it until after high school, even though dyslexia was widely known. And my mom has a very severe case of dyslexia, so it was not something that we were unaware of in our family.
Right.
Yeah. One of the ways that I talk about it to people who've never heard of it, my best example is I cannot do a regular Sudoku puzzle. I have tried and the numbers just swim around and they don't make it. Even the easiest ones where you only need to fill in like 1 per square or whatever, it overwhelms me.
Right. Your brain just goes off.
Yeah. If you put pictures in those spots, I can do that.
The funny thing is, like, it's the same puzzle.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. Yeah, it's just that my brain freaks out at the numbers and they just start to make no sense.
Have you tried using different symbols for numbers? Like instead of a 9, be a fuzzy chick that's just hatching out of an egg.
Just like
Ashlyn has their own little legend every time they go up to Sudoku.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the wingdings? Wingdings, my numbers.
Love that.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's a good question. I still have a really hard time with ASL numbers, but I don't know if that's just because
it's hard
6,
to
7,
see
8,
what
9.
hand what finger they're counting on.
But that's an interesting thing to maybe look into, of whether other notations would work out the same.
I thought I had asked you that years ago when you told me about the Sudoku thing, but maybe this is just something that's been in my brain. Like, I must have asked Ashlyn that.
It affects my life in day-to-day ways that I am really grateful for technology that will, having a smartwatch on me at work especially is really good for doing really quick conversions by just talking to my watch and having it tell me the answer. If I need to multiply 3/4 of a cup, quadruple it for a recipe, I just ask my watch, because there's no way my brain is doing that with any kind of accuracy.
Yeah.
3 cups.
And after this many years of knowing that I am, like, quote unquote bad at math, I think that a lot of the underlying stuff is also just like math anxiety, and I don't trust myself, even the facts that I have memorized.
Right.
So even like my times tables or whatever, you think about it, come to an answer and be like, well, I better make sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
For me, numbers are written on the ceiling. I have to look up if I'm doing intense calculation. But seeing how Ashlyn has adapted, because we have a nibbling who has similar issues, and how you have been helping them learn math through things like cooking has been remarkable, and seeing how that they have changed and seeing them apply that to other things because of your teaching has been very worthwhile. It makes me think of what you said about your mom determined that her dyslexia would not affect you, and reading to you every night, even though it caused her like physical pain.
Yeah.
So it's very rewarding to see this community that you are helping to build, saying, I'm not letting this also affect the rest of my community. Yeah. Just to tie it back to the,
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason why anybody should have to learn coping skills from scratch if there's somebody around to help them out and be like, hey, this is what worked for me.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to apply that. Just the other week, actually, Dave and some friends were playing this game that involves having the numbers 1 to 7 in front of you and revealing, you take 2 numbers from the bag, and they could be the same number, they could be different numbers, and then you have to take one of your numbers and put it face up using these rules on these cards. And I had a 3 or something, and one of the cards was multiple of 3, so I got very excited, and I put one of my tokens there, and some of the other players who were less familiar with my disability started being like, oh, well, the other one could be this, or it could be this, because of like, if 3 times this is 12, and Dave just goes, nope, it's this one, because Ashlyn doesn't know those things. So yeah, there are board games that are more difficult for me, but mostly I have made it work for my life, and through technology, all things are possible, including getting across the city. Yeah, thank God for GPS and technology and things like that. And otherwise, I would have just been a farm wife baking bread with my cup that is a cup, and it would have been fine. Yeah.
Yeah, you need the bread until it feels right. There's no numbers.
Well, math isn't that important anyway. I mean, ChatGPT is revolutionizing computing, and it can't do basic arithmetic either. So,
do not tell people ChatGPT is good.
No, it's
even sarcastically.
It's and I was going to once again, we're going to bump my rant about AI in computers to another night, because we're all tired.
Yeah,
but man, I hate that shit.
I think the moral of this episode is, let's all just keep feeding each other in community.
Yeah.
There we go. I love it.
Understand that the person who is standing in front of you is the same as you. Just have some goddamn empathy is really what it boils down to.
Yep.
Oh, I have an image for you all that I forgot to send. This is from I believe the Cleveland Clinic's page on dyscalculia. I feel like it's a bad sign when it says, here are some of the example, like difficulties with basic arithmetic operations. Computation rules are not understood because the underlying comprehension of numbers and quantities is lacking or insufficiently developed. And then they give a bunch of equations, and I genuinely don't understand what they're trying to demonstrate in this example of not understanding basic arithmetic. So if you could just take a look at it, I'm curious if it does make any sense to you. Oh, I sent it to the group.
You see here.
Yeah. It says 17 plus 14 equals sign 1 plus 1. Then actually written out the word and. 7 plus 4 equals sign 13 or 211.
Where does the 211 come from?
What?
Okay, so this doesn't only not make sense to me. Good.
I think what they're trying to... What it reads is 17 plus 14 equals 1 plus 1 and 7 plus 4
I see it. Yeah.
equals 13 or 211. So what they're saying is people might see 17 plus 14 and they will read it as 1 plus 1 and 7 plus 4.
Okay.
Oh.
I don't know where this 211 comes from.
Or they'll read it or their answer will be like 13 or 211. So you can come up with multiple.
Oh, so like if you added up the
permutations.
tens and somehow added 2 and then put 7 and 4 together and got 11, so then you had 211.
Yeah, or like you
okay.
take the 10s and you put them together and you're 20, and then you add 11, but you just shove it all together or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's badly written as well as being bad math.
Good to know.
Like,
But you are right to think that is extremely confusing.
Okay, yeah. I just looked at that and went, well, this is not for me.
and like
That's funny.
Like math stuff always just came really easily to me. Like, and when people talk about like the MCAT, for example, like I lucked into the kind of brain that is good at the kind of things that medical school entry tests test for.
Mm-hmm.
That has nothing to do with me being a good doctor.
Right.
No, medical school is about memorization.
Getting into medical school is about memorization. Early medical school also about memorization. Late medical school and residency,
It's about
Laura and I
killing
were
yourself.
discussing, is just about endurance.
Oh, God.
But I had something similar where I was in my, I think probably mid to late 20s. And if you said like, which one comes first in the alphabet, like Q or V, I couldn't tell you.
Oh,
I would literally have to go through the alphabet. I'd sing the alphabet song in my head.
Yeah.
And then get to one of them. And I'd say, well, that one comes first.
Yeah.
If somebody asked me to like, say the alphabet backwards to test if I was drunk or whatever, I would just fall on my face. I would be like, Z.
Why?
W. X,
Because he has to do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Y. So, but that is, I got frustrated with myself for that, and so I intensively rehearsed and practiced until I could do that.
That sounds very neurotypical.
Jem is a calm, collected, accepting individual who acts rationally at all times.
One of these days, I'm going to talk about my synesthesia on the podcast, especially how it relates to numbers and letters.
Didn't you do that once?
Nope.
I swear you've done a synesthesia segment.
I thought maybe.
Maybe
One of these
woven
days,
it
one of these days, I'm going to
Listen to our podcast and remember what we've talked about.
Laura and I both, as soon as we do a segment,
gone.
blank from the brain.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Deleted.
A couple years later, I'll ask, have we talked about this? And then I'll realize I talked about that.
It's another thing we don't understand. Our own back catalog.
I'm really good at knowing things for a short period of time and then just gone.
Speaking of being really good at things, that's not quite the segue I expected
No,
it to be.
it's really not. Were you hoping to say, what's your something nice?
I was.
Well, there you go.
All right. Let's talk about our something's nice.
Sorry for jumping on you there.
It's all good.
I made a pretty good meal
You
yesterday. I had a lot of help, but
Community.
I hosted a big harvest meal and we picked a bunch of crap from my garden, a bunch of delicious food. And I was really impressed with the variety that I was able to put forth yesterday in a bunch of beautiful salads and mashed turnips and roasted beets and corn on the cob.
How many members of our community did you have there, Ashlyn?
I think we had 17 total in the end.
Nice. Lovely.
So, able to feed people and had tons of leftovers, and we had a beautiful sing-along, and it was a nice night.
Yeah, had tables set up in our yard.
Nice.
Prior to starting the recording, we had mentioned to our esteemed co-hosts about the giant size of the turnips that we grew
Those
this year. They are bigger than my head. I'm showing the picture.
Those don't make sense.
So we cooked 3 turnips for supper for 17 people yesterday. Plus taking some to Dave's parents.
Turnips are supposed to be like this big, aren't they? Like base, not even softball size.
We gotta pick some more of them.
Oh my lord!
As Dave was chopping them up, he and I kept tasting pieces because sometimes when they get too big, they get bitter.
Yeah.
But no, these were still lovely and
wild,
flavorful all the way through.
Wild. That's great.
Ashlyn and our amazing helper gardener Athena did so much amazing work in the garden this year.
That's great.
Still lots to pick.
Yeah. And we had, brings it back to your community, brings it back to everything we're doing, and we've got all these leftovers.
Lovely. It sounded like a fabulous time.
Mm-hmm. Next year. If you guys can make it next year.
Yeah.
Or maybe we'll have more. We'll bring our own food.
It was Laura's parents' 50th anniversary, so.
Yeah, a little bit more.
Yeah, those only happen once in your life, as my dad was saying. So you could ostensibly get 2 25s in there, but 2 50th anniversaries, I don't think so. Something, well, unless you've got multiple spouses
at the same time.
Yeah, like that. Then you could easily get. You could easily do that. Like yeah. But in any case,
we still count ours as a single anniversary between the 3 of us.
Well, yeah, I'm assuming that if you have.
Well, but you got married in a
different spouses that didn't all get married at the same time, that kind of.
Yeah.
What
if we each acquired a new one and then we'd have a new anniversary?
Exactly. There you go. See?
I would then have to get to 95 if I was to marry somebody tomorrow in order to get to a 50th anniversary with them.
Hey, it's possible.
You can do it.
Oh, don't make me.
I'll go next for something nice. This past month, so August was a very busy but good month with lots of celebrations and fun things for us. So I'll just sort of say everything in August. There was a lot of birthdays and anniversaries and vacations and lots of fun and bigger things going on this August. So it was very tiring, but it was also nice to have lots of reason to celebrate extra.
You had a birthday that ended in a 0.
I did.
Congratulations.
I did. Thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, it was good.
Wonderful. Jem, there's got to be something nice.
Reading to the kids, spending time with my family. I've been working out in Winkler or Morden area, which is about an hour, 20 minutes, hour and a half, depending on traffic and how fast you drive from the city, and often doing 24-hour calls. So I often don't get home. I'd say probably half to 2/3 of the nights this month I'm spending away, often at a stretch, and then I'm home for a couple days and then I go back. And that's really hard. But I do appreciate the time that I am here, that I can spend with Laura and the kids. And
what are you reading to them now? Are you finished The Lord of the Rings?
Yeah,
reading something fun.
We finished The Lord of the Rings, and so we have gone back to The Hobbit for Kira, although we're also reading Egg Marks the Spot, which is a delightful second book in the Skunk and Badger series, which is a new sort of, has Wind in the Willow vibes. Then to Huxley, at Huxley's request, I am reading her The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Nice.
Good child.
And even, I think I was 10, and she's 9 now, so I think I was 10 when I started it. And even though Kira loves it when I do the voices, but Huxley, not so much. But she lets me do an Arthur Dent and a Ford Prefect and a Zaphod Beeblebrox and a Marvin, the Paranoid Android.
Trillion is right out.
and that's it's great. It's lovely to share things with the kids. And She just saw it on the shelf and she was interested. Also, I was watching, at Kira's request, I was watching the Lord of the Rings appendices from the extended edition DVDs.
It has been nothing but Lord of the Rings movie facts for the last 2 days. Kira's like, did you know in this specific scene? And I'm just like, no.
Did you know that
no idea.
Aragorn broke 2 of his toes when he kicked that orc helmet?
Well, that I did know because Jem has told that story numerous times.
I've got a new one for her, one that I just learned recently. Maybe I learned it from her. I don't know. When Boromir is doing the you can't simply walk into Mordor, the reason he's looking down is because they had rewritten the scene and he had his notes on his lap. So he was reading his script. Well,
I'm just really deep.
Yeah. So that's why Sean Bean looks like that.
Nice. What's your something nice, Lauren?
Oh, we had the good supper yesterday. We had some good community coming to help us. We talked about, I've been extolling our community gardener, Athena's virtues. We're just sort of getting into the swing of things. Things are good. Just things are good. We're just getting there.
That's
I
good.
reached a point with my therapist where I'm like, okay, we've talked about all these things that make my brain the way it is, but they don't matter. How do I go back to the original question of how do I be a more present partner? So I think we're finally turning the corner on here's all my problems, but okay, besides that, how do I live better in my community? Mm-hmm. So that's not to bring my therapy into the show, but whatever. Mm-hmm. That's part of what was the thought for this show too. With the here's what we don't understand, here's what we're trying to work towards. I think we've just come to a consensus tonight that we just need to come to a consensus. We just need to work in a community. And I thank you all for being open and bringing your questions. And as much as we've talked about them before, it's good to just lay them all out bare. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is a fun, more conversational
Yeah.
type of show than we usually have.
Absolutely.
Listeners, please let us know if you'd like to hear one of these every so often rather than us using our rugged individualism to pull apart a topic.
Remember when we used to take like different aspects of the same topic?
We do that sometimes.
I know.
Well, yeah, it all depends on how big.
It used to be much more of like, here's this very specific topic and we're each going to take like a section of the article. But
nah.
It's been many years since then.
We've gotten a lot better at things as well, so. All
Thanks
right.
for a fun show, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, folks.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Show notes and references for all of our episodes are available at lueepodcast.com, where you can also find links to donate or get in touch. If you'd like to support the show, the best way to do that is with a review on Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you found us, or by sharing this episode with a friend.
Life. Don't talk to me about life.
I am not apologizing for it, but I do think that
Sorry,
we have a cat on the table.
Joining the podcast.
I do believe we have a cat on a table. You annoying little cat. Get down. All right. I'll just take that again.
I mean, it is something that does...
Oh, God, this cat. Go away.
He's fine.
Can we just edit this podcast to say special guest? Woo, Jim! No! Don't do that! Please. No. I know.
Was tossing him onto the couch, okay?
I know, but he hit the hard... I know. Please.
He's fine.
He's running away
fine.
now. He's good.
It's just a little jangle gem for our 200 listeners.
Not a little James.
Gem.
In the Lego piles.
He wasn't
He just
making
wants
noise.
a snuggle.
Just...
He's part of your sphere. He's in your Dunbar.
He loves you so much, Jem.
I know.
Because you are the furriest of his humans.
But
That's a true story. All right.
So, Nora, if you could cut most of that out, that would be great.
Please use your discretion.
He's making so much noise.
Oh, okay. So put him on your lap and hold him. That's what I did.
Purr into the microphone, Timmy.
There you go. All right. I'll take that from the top.
I think we've just come to the consensus.
And the cats.
Oh, God. Why?
Well, now he's in his castle. He's fine.
It's actually really...
The cat is currently sitting in the giant Lego castle.
Hiding behind the flag. Yeah, he is adorable.
I don't remember what I was saying.
You're thankful for your family.
Something sweet
you enjoy
about
your
my
family.
about my kids.